All I know is, something lives in my parents' basement, and I'm not saying that in a cute, oh it's full of spiders and smells like mold, kind of way. I mean that something is actually down there. Something real. Something that screams. And it all started with a red rubber ball. I was 7. My name's Ethan, and back then we lived in a 2-story colonial-style house in a quiet cul-de-sac in upstate New York, one of those old, creaky homes with wood paneling and drafty windows, where every floorboard groans like it's tired of holding secrets. My dad, Mark, worked in sales and traveled a lot, so it was usually just me, my mom, her name's Jessica, and my older sister Ashley holding down the fort. The basement in that house was weird. It wasn't one of those finished basements with a TV and a pool table and whatever. No, ours had cracked concrete floors, exposed pipes, and a single hanging light bulb that barely lit more than a few feet around it. The walls were this crumbling gray brick, and the whole place smelled like damp earth and mildew, like something had been buried under there and was rotting. We never went down there unless we had to. My mom kept some old Christmas boxes and cleaning stuff on the shelves near the stairs, but even she would rush down and back up like she was being timed. I never thought much of it. I was a kid. I was more scared of the dark than of what might be hiding in it. Anyway. Back to the ball. It was a Saturday afternoon in early spring. I remember the sun shining through the living room window in that warm, golden way it does right before sunset. I was bouncing my red rubber ball, the kind with that hollow echo when it hits the floor, back and forth between the couch and the wall. I was alone. Ashley was at a sleepover, Mom was out grocery shopping, and Dad was, who knows where. 1 bounce. 2 bounces. Then on the 3rd, the ball hit the edge of the wall weird and veered off. It rolled across the hallway floor, and as if it had a mind of its own, it took a hard turn and went right through the open basement door. I didn't even remember leaving it open. I hesitated at the top of the stairs. The basement was pitch black. No light. Just that long, narrow stairway leading down into God knows what. I could still hear the faint sound of the ball bouncing, thud, 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 and then it stopped. I stood there, squinting into the dark, my hand on the light switch. And that's when I heard it. The first scream. It didn't sound like someone calling for help. It wasn't even human. It was a high-pitched, guttural, soul-wrecking sound that cut through my bones and wrapped itself around my spine like ice water. It felt like something ancient and furious was wailing from beneath the concrete. I didn't move. I couldn't. I was paralyzed, somewhere between childlike terror and animal instinct. Then. I saw it. About halfway down the stairs, where the light from the hallway stopped and the darkness began, there was something pressed up against the far basement wall. At first, it looked like a blur of white in the dark, like someone had drawn a ghostly face in chalk on the concrete. But then it moved. A head. Just a head. Pale, bloated, and motionless, except for the twitching corners of its cracked mouth. It was pressed up against the base of the wall, neck twisted unnaturally, like it didn't even have a body. It was just there, peeking out from behind the stone like a spider testing the air. Its eyes, black holes, locked onto mine. Not in a way that said, I see you. It was more like, I'm inside you now. I slammed the door shut. Hard. So hard I heard one of the hinges snap. Then I ran to my room and locked the door and hid under my blankets, the way kids do when they think that somehow fabric will save them from demons. I didn't sleep that night. Or the next. And the worst part? The basement door never closed right again. The latch was busted, so it always sat a little ajar. Just enough for the darkness to breathe into the hallway. And every night from then on, I heard them. The screams. Not just one, but many. Dozens, maybe. Crying, screeching, begging. Some of them sounded like animals. Others like children. Sometimes, they were whispering right outside my door. Other times, it was distant, like the house itself was mourning. I told my mom. She said I had nightmares. I told my sister. She told me to grow a pair. I told my dad when he came back from Ohio or Chicago or wherever the hell he was, and he got mad. Said I was acting out for attention. But I wasn't acting. And I wasn't sleeping, either. The thing with the face, it never left. Every time I walked past the basement door, I felt it stare. It never showed more than its head. Never spoke. Never moved past that wall. But its face was always there when I looked too long. And worst of all, the red ball rolled back upstairs 3 days later. It was sitting in front of my bedroom door when I woke up. I didn't touch the red ball. I just stood there, staring at it from the edge of my blanket like it was ticking or hissing or something. It wasn't. It was just there. Sitting perfectly still in front of my door like someone had placed it there with purpose. Not rolled, not tossed, set. I called out for my mom. She was downstairs making coffee, humming some old Fleetwood Mac song, totally oblivious to the fact that her 7-year-old kid was living in a waking nightmare. She came up, saw the ball, laughed a little. "You found it," she said. "I told you it didn't disappear. Probably rolled out when I was vacuuming the hallway." I didn't answer her. I just nodded and stayed silent. Because I knew it hadn't rolled out. That thing, that face, gave it back. That day I didn't go to school. I told her I felt sick. She believed me. I stayed in my room all day, door locked, curtains shut, and the ball sitting at the far end of the room like it was watching me. I shoved it in the closet around noon, but a few hours later, when I turned around from the window, it was back in the middle of the floor. Just sitting there. That night, the screaming started again. But this time, it was different. The first few nights, the sounds had come from deep below. Like the basement had swallowed someone and left them there to die. But now it was closer. I was in bed, staring at the ceiling, and suddenly I heard footsteps above me. Not below. Above. Slow, dragging, like bare feet on wooden floorboards. Then the whispering started. But it wasn't words. It was a sound I can still barely describe, somewhere between a whimper and a rasping laugh. It circled my room once. Then stopped right outside the door. I didn't move. I couldn't. My heart was hammering so hard I thought I was gonna pass out. The doorknob jiggled softly, just once. Then silence. 10 full minutes passed. I swear to God I counted every single second. Then the screaming came again, and it was right outside my door. Right there. I wanted to scream for my mom, but nothing came out. My throat was locked up like I'd swallowed glass. I pulled the blanket over my head and prayed, like really prayed, something I hadn't done since kindergarten when I thought God was a giant bearded genie. When I woke up, everything was quiet. But the door to the basement, wide open. Things really started falling apart after that. Ashley came home from her sleepover the next night. She made fun of me for being possessed by a dodgeball and laughed it off. I begged her not to go near the basement. She just rolled her eyes, said something about how I needed to grow up, and stormed off. The next morning, I heard her screaming. I ran downstairs, heart in my throat. My mom was already there, holding Ashley on the couch. She was shaking, crying uncontrollably, pointing toward the hallway where the basement was. I didn't go in, she kept yelling. I didn't go in. I just looked. It looked at me. My mom was trying to calm her down, asking what happened, but I already knew. She'd seen it. Ashley wouldn't talk for hours after that. Just sat on the couch with her knees to her chest, rocking back and forth. She didn't even scream when the red ball rolled into the living room on its own around noon. That night, she slept in my room. I didn't sleep at all. Because around 2 a.m., I heard it crawl up the stairs. I know what stairs sound like when someone's walking on them. These were different. These were slow, deliberate, and wrong. Like someone dragging their body with their arms. Nails on wood. Bone on tile. Then the screaming started again, but it wasn't one voice anymore. It was two. And one of them sounded like Ashley. In the morning, the house was freezing cold. I mean, like, breath in the air cold, even though it was late spring and warm outside. Mom called the heating guy. He checked the furnace in the basement, said everything looked fine, but that he felt something weird while he was down there. When he came back up, he looked pale. Said there was something wrong with the crawlspace under the foundation wall. Some part of it had caved in or was unfinished or something. I was nearby, listening, and I'll never forget how he described it. It's like someone built a room under there, he said. But never finished it. It's just, open. And cold. I asked him if he saw anything weird. He gave me this dead serious look and said, I saw eyes. Then he laughed like it was a joke. But it wasn't. I could tell he was covering something up. He left 20 minutes later and never came back, even though my mom called his office 3 times that week. After that, the basement became active. The door would open on its own. The stairs creaked when no one was near them. Sometimes I'd catch a glimpse of that white head, peeking out from the bottom step or behind the water heater. Just watching. And then one night, I saw my mom staring down into it. I woke up thirsty, walked out into the hallway, and saw her standing at the top of the basement stairs in her robe, unmoving, the door wide open. The light was off. She was just staring into the dark, her hand loosely gripping the railing. I whispered, Mom. She didn't answer. Didn't flinch. Then slowly, so slowly, she turned her head and looked at me. And for a second, her eyes looked like his. Black. Hollow. Empty. But only for a second. Then she blinked, shook her head, and closed the door. Go back to bed, sweetheart, she said. I was just checking the thermostat. She never called me, sweetheart. I'm telling you, something was pulling at us from that basement. It wanted to be seen. And I think, it was hungry. Ashley stopped talking about the basement after that night. She acted like it never happened. Like something just switched off in her. But I noticed how she avoided the hallway. How she never walked past the basement door alone. She'd take the long way around the house just to avoid being near it. My mom chalked it all up to nerves. She blamed me. Said I was giving my sister nightmares by feeding into her imagination. But she didn't see what we saw. She didn't feel it like we did. That heaviness. That cold draft that came through even when the vents were off. That quiet, awful pressure in your chest every time you walked by that part of the house. And still, she refused to believe there was anything wrong. She even locked the basement door, like that was going to fix things. But that didn't stop it. The next big thing happened about a week later. Saturday morning. Bright and calm. One of those mornings where nothing feels wrong. Where the world almost convinces you that you imagined all of it. Until I saw it again. I was brushing my teeth, door open, sun coming through the hallway window. The house was totally quiet. Then something caught my eye in the mirror, just a flicker of movement in the background. I turned my head slowly toward the hallway. And there it was. Just past the railing, by the top of the basement stairs. That white face. Not all the way out. Just enough. Peeking from behind the edge of the doorframe. Still as stone, no expression, just staring straight up the hallway into my eyes. It didn't blink. It didn't move. It just watched me. I froze, toothbrush halfway in my mouth, toothpaste spilling down my chin. Then, without thinking, I stepped back and slammed the bathroom door shut. I stood there breathing hard, heart going insane, trying to convince myself that it wasn't real. That maybe I'd just imagined it. That maybe it was the shape of the light or the edge of the wood. Then I heard the scream. Loud. Sudden. Muffled, like it came from behind a wall. Not like before, not far off or echoing from below. This one sounded close. Too close. It was a woman's voice. I think it was my sister's. I flung the bathroom door open and ran toward the hallway, yelling her name. Ashley. No answer. I checked her room. Empty. Looked in the kitchen. Empty. My mom was out back hanging laundry. And then I noticed the basement door. It was unlocked. Just barely cracked open. I swear to you, it was locked the night before. I remember it clearly because I'd heard my mom slam the bolt into place and say, "Now we can stop talking about the creepy damn basement." I didn't go down. I wanted to. I really did. But something in my chest screamed don't. I walked back to my room, called Ashley's phone. She didn't pick up. 30 minutes later, she came in through the front door with 2 of her friends, laughing about something that happened at the corner store. Like nothing had happened. But I hadn't imagined that scream. That was the moment I realized the thing down there, it knew what it was doing. It was playing with us. Watching, waiting, learning. It knew how to make us question ourselves. How to make us second guess what we heard and saw. My mom noticed how on edge I was and finally agreed to bring in someone, a family friend named Paul. He was an electrician but used to work in general contracting. Big guy, tough, straightforward. He came over that Wednesday to check things out. "You sure it's not just raccoons or something?" he asked as we stood at the top of the basement stairs. "No. It's not raccoons." I couldn't even say anything else. I just pointed to the stairs. Paul rolled his eyes and walked down with his flashlight. I stood up top, gripping the railing so hard my fingers went white. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. I heard him moving around, muttering, knocking on pipes. Normal stuff. Then everything went quiet. "Paul." I called. No answer. I stepped down one stair. Then another. "Paul." Suddenly I heard the sound of something being dragged. Not like equipment. Like something heavy on the floor. Then a crash. Then nothing. I ran upstairs, yelling for my mom. She came down with me, worried but skeptical. By the time we got there, Paul was coming up the stairs, covered in dust. His flashlight was gone, and he had a gash above his eyebrow. "What the hell happened?" my mom asked. Paul didn't answer right away. He looked pale, like he'd seen a ghost. He rubbed his forehead and said, "There's something wrong with that foundation. I don't think it's safe to be down there." My mom tried to press him, but he just waved her off, said he needed to go, and left without saying goodbye. That was the last time he ever came to our house. Later, I snuck into the garage and looked at his flashlight. It was sitting on the tool bench, cracked down the middle like it had been bitten. After that, things kept getting weirder. The red ball showed up in my backpack at school. Ashley said she saw me standing outside her window one night. Only I'd been asleep in my room the whole time. My mom started waking up with dirt under her fingernails. Every day, the screaming got closer. And the white face. It didn't hide anymore. It started to come up to the 3rd step. You ever feel like a place is just watching you? Not like someone's hiding. Not like there's a person you can confront. I mean like the walls are breathing with something behind them. That feeling got worse every day. I stopped sleeping in my room. I couldn't. My door faced the hallway, and from my bed, I could see straight to the top of the basement stairs. Every time I rolled over or blinked too long, I'd imagine I saw that white head just barely visible in the shadows. But it wasn't just in my head. It was really coming higher now. One night, I woke up and found myself standing at the edge of the stairs. Just standing there in the dark. Barefoot. Ice-cold hardwood under my feet. I don't even remember getting out of bed. It was like something called me there. I looked down, and I swear on everything, I saw that head. Not halfway down anymore. Not peeking. It was 3 full steps up. And closer. There was no body. Just the head. Pale. Eyeless, or maybe the eyes were just black holes, sunk too deep. Mouth stretched just a little too wide, like it had just finished smiling and was deciding whether or not to do it again. It didn't move. Didn't blink. It just existed. It shouldn't have. It wasn't a person. I know how that sounds. But no person could look like that and be real. The texture of the skin was too smooth, too pale, like wet chalk. Its mouth was just slightly open now. I felt like it was about to breathe. And then it did. I heard it suck in air. I ran. I didn't scream, didn't cry. I just ran into the living room and stayed there until the sun came up. That morning, I told my mom everything. Not just about the head. I told her about the screams. The red ball. The way the light never reached past the 3rd stair no matter how bright the bulbs were. The things Ashley saw. The smell of dirt that came through the vents sometimes. Everything. She stared at me for a long time. Not angry. Just hollow. Then she did something I'll never forget. She said, "I've heard the screams too." She said it softly, barely a whisper. "I've heard them for years. Ever since we moved in. I thought they'd stop. That changed everything. I always thought she'd just been in denial. But no, she knew. She was just hoping ignoring it would make it go away." The same day, we packed bags. The plan was simple, we'd stay at my Uncle Ray's house for a while. Just a few days away, clear our heads. But the basement wasn't done with us. I was upstairs grabbing chargers and clothes when I heard it again, that dragging sound. Not heavy like furniture. This time it was like fingernails across cement. A scratching that didn't stop. Like something was crawling along the inside of the walls. I crept out of my room and looked down the hallway. The basement door was wide open. Not just unlocked. Not cracked. Wide. Open. I was alone in the house at that moment. My mom had taken Ashley to the car and left the engine running. She wasn't gone more than 5 minutes. And yet the door, it was open. I should have left. Should have run straight out the front and never looked back. But something, stupid curiosity or that same awful pull I'd felt before, made me step forward. Just a few feet. I stood at the edge of the stairs and looked down. It was gone. No white head. No eyes. Nothing. Just dark. But this time, something was different. The dark moved. It was like watching smoke shift across the floor, slow and heavy, almost like it had a weight to it. And then... slam. The basement door shut itself behind me. Hard. The kind of slam that shakes the frame. I spun around and yanked the knob, it wouldn't budge. Not even a little. Like it had never had a handle to begin with. I turned back to the stairs, and there it was again. 3rd step. Same face. But this time, it was smiling. Only it wasn't the first face. The smooth one. This one was wrong, like someone had tried to recreate a human face from memory and messed up the proportions. The nose was too small. The eyes too far apart. And the mouth. The mouth went too far back. It opened wider and wider until I could see the inside of the throat, long and dark and too deep. Like it was a tunnel to something below. Then I heard the scream. But it wasn't from the face. It was from behind me. Upstairs. Ashley. The door behind me suddenly flung open and my mom was there, pale, panicked, pulling me back. We ran outside to the car where Ashley was sobbing, saying she saw something standing in the upstairs window. Watching her. We left. Didn't even lock the house. Just left. We stayed at Uncle Ray's place that night. None of us spoke much. But late, around 1 a.m., Ashley came into the guest room and sat on the floor beside my mattress. I saw it too, she whispered. When we were driving away. I looked back. I didn't say anything. She wiped her eyes and whispered, it was on the roof. We didn't go back to the house for a week. My mom kept saying she was waiting for a sign, but the truth was, she was scared. We all were. And the longer we stayed at Uncle Ray's, the more we wanted to believe maybe it had all been in our heads. Sleep deprivation. Stress. Maybe the house was just old and weird. But denial only works until reality knocks on your front door. In our case, it came as a phone call. Mrs. Hendricks, the old lady next door, called my mom one morning while we were eating cereal in silence. I saw your door open, she said. My door, my mom asked. What do you mean? Front door. Been swinging open all night. Thought you were back. I went over to close it, but something was already standing in the hallway. My mom froze. Mrs. Hendricks continued, I swear, Amy. I swear it looked just like you. But it was, smiling wrong. We went back that day. Not to stay. Just to pack everything we could and get out for good. I begged her not to. But she said, if we don't go now, we'll never go back. And maybe that was the point. When we pulled into the driveway, I could already tell something was off. The blinds in my room were open, and I never left them like that. And worse, someone had scratched the glass. Not cracked. Scratched. Thin, messy lines, over and over again, as if someone had been clawing at the inside of the window. We walked into the house together. Daylight made everything seem dull and dust-covered, like the air itself didn't want us there. The smell hit me immediately, damp, moldy, like dirt and stagnant water. But the worst part? The silence. There were no screams. No whispers. No dragging noises. Just the kind of silence that feels like it's listening to you. We split up to gather what we could. I ran upstairs, grabbed my clothes, backpack, laptop, and that was it. But when I stepped into my room, I noticed something that stopped me cold. The vent under my bed had been unscrewed. Not off. Just hanging there, crooked. Like someone had been inside it. I knelt down slowly, heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my teeth, and looked into the vent. It was pitch black. And then... knock knock. From inside. I stood up so fast I nearly threw up. My knees were shaking, my head buzzing. I backed out of the room, ran downstairs, and nearly crashed into my mom coming up. We didn't say anything. We just knew. Something was in the walls now. We packed in under 20 minutes and left. You'd think that was the end. But it never ends like that, does it? We moved in with Uncle Ray temporarily, then into a rental house 3 towns over. But the screams? They followed me. Not every night. But some. I'd hear them through the vents again, those soulless wails, rising and falling like someone was being pulled through a tunnel of broken glass. I'd wake up drenched in sweat and go check the heating ducts, even when the air was off. Nothing. But then I started seeing the face. In reflections. Bathroom mirrors. Car windows. My phone screen when it was dark. Always just behind me. Always with that awful mouth, open just enough to suggest it could scream again at any moment. One night, I was up late, scrolling Reddit, headphones on, trying to stay awake because I was afraid of what I'd see if I closed my eyes. I opened a random live stream on YouTube, some guy walking the streets of New York. Normal stuff. Until the camera glitched. Just for a second. And in that single frame, I saw it. The white head. Behind him. Looking at me. I don't know what it wants. I don't know why it started with the basement, or the ball, or if it was always there waiting for someone to notice it. But I do know this. It's not trapped in that basement. It never was. It lives in attention. In fear. In the space between knowing something is wrong and pretending it isn't. And once you've seen it, once you've looked into that face and it looked back into you, you're never really alone again. Update, just now, as I'm typing this. My closet door just creaked open behind me. I live alone. I haven't turned around yet. But I can feel it. Third step. It's here. Again.